You ran the same job through Gemini and DeepSeek, and one bill came back 10 times higher than the other. Same output, wildly different invoice. Gemini is Google's multimodal flagship. DeepSeek is the open-weight cost king. The real question is which one actually fits your workflow. Test 1, cost, and this number bites fast. Gemini 2.5 Pro output is priced at $10 per million tokens, so if you're running a high-volume text pipeline, that adds up to real money before you've shipped anything. Output token rate is the dominant cost driver, which is exactly where I'm looking first. I put the cheapest useful tiers side by side. DeepSeek v3.2 output runs 0.42 per million tokens. Gemini 2.5 flash output runs 1.0 ROAS per million, and Gemini 2.5 Pro output runs 10 pict ROAS per million. That's a 2.4 times gap at flash tier and a 10 times gap at Pro tier. And DeepSeek also carries a cache hit discount that cuts repeated context costs by 90%, which makes those workloads dramatically cheaper on top of that. Now, Gemini does close the gap a bit with batch mode and cache reads at 0 in only 125 per million, so if you're running huge repeated context jobs, the spread narrows. But even with those discounts fully applied, DeepSeek's base rate is still lower, and its cache hit discount is more aggressive than anything Gemini's batch pricing delivers. DeepSeek takes cost, and it's not close. I expected the gap to be real, but 10 times cheaper on output tokens at the Pro tier is the number the title promised, and it lands right here. That puts DeepSeek up 1-0. I've been living inside these APIs long enough to know that the pricing page is the last place the real cost shows up. Drop a comment if a surprise token bill has ever wrecked your budget. Test 2, coding benchmark performance. Okay, so you're paying 10 times less for DeepSeek, but what if it just can't close real GitHub issues the way Gemini can? That's the actual question. SWE Bench Verified scores models on real-world pull requests, and Live Code Bench covers algorithmic problems, so these numbers tell you what the model does when the code actually matters. Watch what happens on SWE Bench Verified. DeepSeek v3.2 scores 67.8%, Gemini 2.5 Pro scores 63.8%. On Live Code Bench, DeepSeek leads again at 74.1% versus Gemini's 70.4%. Gemini does score 83.1% on Aider Polyglot for multi-language refactoring, where I couldn't find a published DeepSeek figure, so that one's directional from community consensus. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Both are genuinely frontier tier, and the coding gap is way smaller than the price gap. The gap here is genuinely small, like 4 percentage points on SWE Bench, so this isn't a blowout. Gemini's Aider Polyglot lead at 83.1% is real for multi-language refactoring work, and DeepSeek leads on the two benchmarks where both sides have published scores. The decisive call still goes to DeepSeek because you're getting slightly better benchmark results at a fraction of the cost. DeepSeek takes coding benchmarks too, which is kind of wild, because I expected Gemini 2.5 Pro to pull ahead on raw coding ability, but DeepSeek v3.2 leads on both SWE Bench and Live Code Bench. That makes it 2-0 DeepSeek. Test 3. Speed. The concrete scenario here is an interactive agent that needs to respond in real time, where slow output means your users are staring at a spinner. Output speed in tokens per second determines whether your product feels instant or sluggish, and for agentic loops chaining dozens of calls, this compounds fast. Here's what I found. Gemini 2.5 flash outputs at 203.2 tokens per second. DeepSeek v3.2 hosted comes in at roughly 95 tokens per second, so Gemini is more than twice as fast on output, and Gemini 2.0 flashes time to first token clocks around 0.38 seconds versus DeepSeek's 0.72 seconds. These are different test setups, so treat it as directional, but the speed gap is consistent across sources. Gemini takes speed, and the flashlight tier hits around 887 tokens per second, which is just a different class of throughput entirely. Score is now 2-1, DeepSeek still ahead. Alright, so DeepSeek is cheaper and slightly better at coding, and Gemini is faster. But context, window size, and modality are still on the table, and those two tests could completely change which model is even usable for your workflow. A 128K ceiling is a hard wall for some jobs, and you need to know where you hit it. Test 4, context and output limits. You feed a model your entire codebase, 200 files, and it just stops reading halfway through because it ran out of context window. That's a real failure mode. Input context determines how much you can hand the model in one shot, and max output length determines how much it can write back without you having to chain calls. Gemini 2.5 Pro and Flash both support 1 million tokens of input context and up to 65,536 tokens of output. DeepSeek v3 and v3.2 cap at 128,000 tokens input and 8,192 tokens output. That's 8 times smaller on both dimensions, and if you need to ingest a large repository or a full PDF collection in one pass, DeepSeek simply can't do it. Gemini takes context and output limits decisively, and I didn't expect the output gap to be this stark. But 65K versus 8K means Gemini can write a full refactor in one response, where DeepSeek needs multiple chained calls. That ties it up 2-2. Test 5, deployment and modality. Your product needs to analyze a screenshot, a PDF diagram, or a short video clip, and your model just returns an error because it only accepts text. That's a workflow stopper. On the flip side, your legal team won't let you send data to a third-party API, so you need weights you can run on your own hardware. Gemini accepts images, video, audio, and PDFs natively. DeepSeek is text only, full stop, no workaround. But DeepSeek is MIT licensed and self-hostable, so you can run it on your own infrastructure with full data control, while Gemini is closed and hosted only through Google's API and Vertex. Both integrate with major cloud providers, but they're solving completely different problems here. Deployment and modality is a genuine split. One model wins on multimodal input, the other wins on open weights and data control, and you can't trade one for the other. Final score, Gemini 2, DeepSeek 2, 1 tied. Gemini wins on context, with a 1 million token input window and 65K output versus DeepSeek's 128K and 8K. It wins on speed, with Flash outputting 203 tokens per second. And it's the only option if your workflow touches images, video, audio, or large PDF collections, because DeepSeek simply cannot process those inputs at all. DeepSeek wins on cost, with v3.2 output at 0.42 per million, versus Gemini 2.5 Flash's 1.0 euros, and a cache hit discount that slashes repeated context costs by nearly the full price. It wins on coding benchmarks, leading on SWE Bench Verified and Live Code Bench. And it's the only path if you need open weights and self-hosted deployment for full data control under MIT license. If your work is text-heavy and cost-sensitive, pick DeepSeek, because 10 times cheaper on output tokens is the number that matters, and it holds up on coding benchmarks too. If you need images, video, audio, or a context window bigger than 128K, Gemini is the only real choice. One thing the docs don't spell out, DeepSeek's 8,192 token output cap applies per response, and there's no native continuation mechanism in the hosted API. So if your pipeline generates long structured outputs like full test suites or detailed reports, you'll hit that wall and need to build your own chunking logic around it. And if the cost question is still on your mind and you want to see how DeepSeek stacks up against the most popular chatbot out there, I already ran that comparison. Go watch DeepSeek R1 versus ChatGPT, which is cheaper. It's right up next, and the numbers are pretty interesting.